So let's be completely clear. For those of us who live within a modern technocratic control state, just as surely as it has been through much of human history for those of us who want to live as free people, we will be forced to somehow purchase that freedom. And as it has always been, very often the personal cost of purchasing that freedom can be severe. For many, they find that the cost of purchasing that freedom is simply too high. In fact, for those of us who are making a real attempt to, by whatever means, reclaim our own authenticity and integrity, one of the first discoveries one finds oneself being forced to face is the immense array of thought products that exist precisely to convince the enslaved that they are free. There's very little out there that practically can provide a roadmap by which an individual who simply did not want to live as a servant to a technological capitalist state that is hell-bent on destroying everything that you love, anyone who didn't want to do that, didn't want to be coerced into destroying precisely the things that you find valuable and precious, there's almost no guidance there. But there's plenty of guidance about how to remain still attached, still in chains, and somehow comfortable in carrying out the work of your masters. Either human life has a purpose or it does not. There is no middle field there. If it does not, then none of this is of any consequence. If it does, however, it is clear that the purpose of human life is to live a life of purpose, and purpose is found through connection with other. And it is essential for that connection, if it is going to be reciprocal. As Martin Buber has said, it requires the existence of both an I that is authentic as well as a thou that is authentic. Authenticity is a luxury item that a servant cannot afford. The dehumanization of being the slave, being subjected, being the oppressed, is a reality that precludes authentic relating to reality, because the pain and the realizations of one's station is simply too much. And when that is coupled with the acts and the exploitation and the damage that the ruling class demands of you for your basic privilege of surviving, when one is aware that those duties that one is required to carry out are at odds with your own welfare and your own survival in a healthy world and a healthy ecosystem and healthy relationships, should you ever have the ability or the authenticity to even try. You are being required to engage in a suicidal posture for the privilege of your own living. How can there be authenticity to be found in that? But this is why, of course, that the seafaring mythos and the pirate archetype and the enchantment that we have with free, living, adventurous explorers, beyond the obvious romance, there is reality there for what makes more authentic sense for those who have thrown off their shackles, to but gravitate to the other extreme of freedom, inclusion, equality, respect. Those who have lived their lives without consent have a tendency to value it. And in fact, there's good examples of people doing exactly that. For those who have escaped a prison cell, a natural reaction to live in the opposite is to be predicted. For those who have lived lives that have been constrained, it is sensible to live expansively. If one has been restricted, to embrace exploration is to be expected. And I see a possibility for a modern view of this creed to emerge, of healthy men and women who are strong and able and autonomous, able to relate and loving, crossing oceans, climbing mountains, plumbing the depths of union in the most explorative of manner. That is a possibility that even in this moment remains very possible. It is simply a matter of whether or not some of us are willing to pay the personal costs to extricate ourselves from the system that makes that impossible and choose to deliberately demonstrate another way of being. I really see this as incredibly, incredibly practical. So in perhaps the most practical sense, the first step for many of us is to be aware of the legacy we have of inherited expectations, inherited values, ideas, thought products that if they were relevant in a previous generation or in other circumstances may no longer be relevant to us now, and may in fact be at cross purposes with our desires. And a serious internal audit of whether or not the values that we hold and the expectations and desires that we assume are our own are in fact representative of the person that we desire to be. A hard inquiry there is a great place to start. And if answers are not forthcoming, a parsimonious attitude there is worth embracing, meaning if you are not sure, if the idea is yours or something else, well, the best thing to do is to cut it loose and explore and to see whether or not those ideas and those values, in fact, in your lived experience, do suit you. It wouldn't hurt a lot of us to, at least in a preliminary manner, embrace as much as possible a blank slate, ridding ourselves from the trappings of our previous existence. Time is short, and if we are wanting to write ourselves a new script for the future, a diligent approach is going to be important. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate you hanging around, and I hope this stuff is useful.